Welcome to the Couple to Couple League PeakDay podcast, where we discuss fertility and natural family planning with our friends. As we close out the 2025 season of the PeakDay podcast, we're taking a look back at the conversations that challenged and inspired the couples and families we serve. This year brought an incredible range of voices, from nationally recognized leaders and authors to everyday couples living out the beauty of their understanding of fertility, to the dedicated CCL teaching couples who accompany students every day. To celebrate the year, we've put together a special 4-part series highlighting the best moments from our guests. Each part gathers a unique group of interviews, and within each episode, you'll hear a brief introduction to every guest before we share a few of their most meaningful clips. We begin our series with conversations that stood out for their clarity and encouragement. In part 1, you'll hear highlights from 3 of our special guest interviews, voices who brought fresh perspectives, deep experience, and uplifting wisdom to our listeners this year. One of the first guests of the 2025 season was Fr Daniel McCaffrey, a priest of the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, who has spent more than 60 years building strong natural family planning programs in dioceses and parishes across the country. A lifelong champion of NFP and a clear-eyed critic of the harms of contraception in marriage, Fr McCaffrey speaks with a candor that's both challenging and encouraging. In this conversation, he urges us never to be discouraged, reflects on how practicing NFP forms generous hearts, and shares how it opens couples to Christ in profound ways. He recalls a couple who wrote to him decades after hearing his message, still grateful for the lasting impact it had on their marriage and family. He closes with a passionate affirmation of the truth and beauty of the Church's teaching on NFP. Yeah, we started officially, the Kipleys established Couple to Couple League in 1971. So
1971, and then the Billings got into it, and these were all great pioneers. Dr. Hilgers and the different models. They're all good. They're all good. And I go out on the road and I support them. As a matter of fact, only about a year ago, I was in Savannah, Georgia, in a parish there, and the lady that was in the parish was a couple lady. And we had a wonderful seminar in the evening, and the pastor said that he would continue to support the issue. And so 3 cheers for the couple.
Yeah. And yes, and all the other ministries that are,
right. They're all working for the same goal, to stop this horrible thing called contraception.
I know.
It's destroying our country. It's destroying our church, and it's destroying marriage.
Yes.
And it's worth preaching on. It's worth continuing the fight to proclaim the truth. And even if it's an uphill battle, I think it was St. Therese, the little flower, said, the truth is worth proclaiming, even though no one listens to it. Right. It's worth proclaiming because it's the truth of God. So we should never be discouraged. When people get off this contraception, they become generous. Generous in the collection. Generous in supporting the church. Generous in volunteering. It's a whole revolution in the church. It just changes completely.
Can you share an inspiring story, maybe, of the impact one of your talks made on a couple when they learned about it?
I get letters from people. I just got a letter. Somebody sent me a nice contribution. And it was a nice contribution. And the gentleman that wrote it, he was in the Army with me at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. And he said, Father, we met you 40 years ago. And our lives had been totally changed. And our children would not be here. Our lives in the church would not be what they are if we hadn't met you. And you hadn't spoken about this and enforced it in the parish. With people like yourself who are teachers and people that are concerned about it. I said, if we had not met you, our lives would have been totally different. So I get letters like that. So see, once they get into this and they see the beauty of it and how they give themselves totally to each other and follow God's design, it's so beautiful. I mean, God instituted marriage, not the president of the United States, not the Congress, not the Supreme Court. It was instituted by God, and He gave us a design. And if we don't follow that design, we're not going to be happy. Okay? So, in order to practice natural family planning, you need the grace of God to do that. So, your spiritual life, the divine intimacy must be part of this if it's going to last. And that's where the priest comes in. That's where confession comes in. That's where the Mass comes in, the Eucharist, the mentoring of the church's devotions. And so it brings you closer to God, closer to each other. And it makes your lives rich, a rich life when you share yourself totally, completely.
Right.
And so it has all the blessings of God.
Yeah.
And I said, the church's teaching is so beautiful. And it brings together the love you have for each other and the discipline that you have in doing it, makes you more of a saintly person. And so that's why I'm in it, because I believe in it and I know it's true.
Our next special guest was Rosemary Shannon Imrick, daughter of the late Marilyn Shannon, whose book Fertility, Cycles, and Nutrition remains a cornerstone resource for CCL teaching couples, coaches, and students. Rosemary was deeply involved in the book's creation, helping her mother navigate thousands of research articles to bring together cutting-edge insights on nutrition and fertility. In our conversation, Rosemary reflects on her idyllic upbringing on the family homestead, now Shannon Haven, which she inherited and continues to develop. She shares stories of her mother's impact as a university instructor, her own role in the research behind the book, and how Marilyn's work was truly ahead of its time, something increasingly evident in today's renewed interest in science-backed nutrition. Rosemary now builds on her mother's legacy by updating the book and serving a new generation of women and couples seeking optimal fertility health. So you grew up on your family's homestead outside of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yes.
How was that foundational to the path that you chose for your education and your career, and maybe the choices that you make for your family?
So it definitely was the foundation. We were taught that we could pretty much do everything. We could do sciences, we could do liberal arts, we could do gardening, we could do university teaching. We pretty much grew up in Mom's lab in the human anatomy and physiology department. So we were putting together torso models and all that as kids. We were always part of her teaching. They always encouraged us to follow whatever interests we had. And a lot of, again, looking back, it was the work, the prayer, regular Mass, confession, and then a real love for stability. Mom always said that the house was like part of the family. It was just the place where we did everything. And so they really had a sense of that. And that really impacted my life, in that I did university teaching, but still we live on a homestead.
Gosh, I imagine, being on a homestead, having a lot of land and space and fresh air is just the thing that really makes a childhood very special.
It was, I think about my childhood, and honestly, it was idyllic. I really, really enjoyed my childhood. We always had animals, we had pets, we had friends over. The homestead was always open. That was one of the things, looking back, about my parents, especially when I was in college. We could just always come over. We could come with friends, we could come at night, we could come whenever, and Mom always had the house open and welcoming. Yeah. She said she'd rather meet our friends and know the kind of people that we were with and who we were becoming. And she was always in the thick of it with our friends. She became their mentor. Everyone, they just loved her. They still talk about it.
So you wrote a beautiful tribute to your mom after her death, and you talked about your memories of Marilyn working late hours on her book, Fertility, Cycles, and Nutrition. What are those memories? And what do they say about your mom's character?
Yes. Well, what prompted me to write that tribute was actually at her wake. I was just visiting with people that we knew, and I noticed there was a stranger just standing by her casket, and nobody knew who she was. Nobody. So I walked over and just introduced myself, and she just said she was my mom's student 20 years ago, and she couldn't have children, and she was talking to my mom, and she said, go get my book, it's down at the health food shop, do what it says. And she told me right there, she says, I had twins 20 years ago, they're 20 years old, and I tell them that they are here because of Marilyn Shannon. And she said, I just had to be here. I saw the obituary, I had to be here.
Oh.
And that's when I realized my mom's legacy, I think I already knew it, but her legacy was far bigger than just our family. And so all those late nights, all the things that I just kind of took for granted, were really life-changing for many, many people. And she would just have piles of articles around her. I would help her find them, especially once I started teaching. I'd help her. She would email me lists of, okay, I need things on B12 and energy, and B12 and stress, and B12 and PCOS.
Right.
And so I would get these long lists of, okay, here's everything you need to find. But she would just absorb it late at night because, well, that's when it was quiet. So,
yeah, sure.
Oh. But yeah, she just always was interested in research. I think she started writing the book when I was probably maybe in fourth grade, quite a ways back. And as she worked on the editions going forward from that, she really, I became more and more involved just because I enjoy the sciences too. I ended up with my profession being English teaching, but I always really loved the sciences and did concentration. So it ended up being a collaboration, and usually I would get these calls again at like 10:30 at night. I need another research article, or hey, can you email me something over? And it was fun. I miss it.
Do you find that your mom's, extensively researched writings on better nutrition for improved cycle health have really stood the test of time?
Oh, definitely. You can see that by what's in the health food shops now, and what's gone mainstream. The research has definitely, well, it was all based on research. That's why it stood the test of time. She was incredibly picky about what research she would base her counseling on. And I know because I went through about 4,000 abstracts from researched articles for her, I think it was her fourth edition. And narrowed it down by about half, and then narrowed it down again. And then she was really wanted like the really top-notch last 200 some. And her book, scientific research really should be between ideally less than 5 years old, maybe up to 10 years old is considered acceptable in the scientific world. And her research it's all solid as can be. But some of what I would like to do is actually make sure that I find the most recent, like last 5 years, articles, and make sure that those are maybe added to her references to show that, yes, vitamin A and B12 and all these things still indeed do what they did 20 years ago.
Exactly. And where do you see your mother's research going forward, and what do you hope to build on the foundation that she left?
Well, again, just making sure that really what the already established findings just have up-to-date references. So, I mean, she really, really researched the vitamins. And so I think that just needs up-to-date references. She had just started on herbs. Vitamins were her first interest, but she just started on herbs when she did the last edition. And so I actually was researching just which crops to add to my dad's lineup of ginger and turmeric and all that. And I happened to see, I think it was under suggested articles you might like. It's mentioned male infertility and ginger. And being my mother's daughter, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to start researching this. There is so much out there now. So what I like to see is her research extended just naturally in the direction she was already going.
thinking about, kind of carrying on, where your mom left off, what are your hopes, and what do you really want to focus on when it comes to that?
For my mom, I mean, honestly, I think it's continuing her legacy of service. When I was in college, I did quite a bit of traveling, and everywhere I went, especially in Catholic circles, people would find out my name and say, "Oh my goodness, thank your mom for me. I was able to have a baby." Sometimes they hold up the baby. It was kind of funny, actually. "See this baby here? Tell your mom thank you." So I would like her work that really blessed so many people just to be able to continue, because the research and the things that she was telling people to do are still just as valid now. And so to keep it up to date, so it doesn't become obsolete just by the dates on the research articles.
Exactly.
And then, since there is this cutting edge new research out there, just to add it, maybe do some articles, maybe the next time there's a printing on the book, just insert it right naturally where it would have come in there. Because she would have loved to see that information get out to people. A little change can make a huge difference, and that's worth keeping going. And that's what I decided, that I just wanted to make sure that her work just stays out there to help people.
Our final special guest was Dr. Holly Smith, a family physician who gradually discovered her passion for restorative reproductive medicine. Today, she leads her own primary care practice, Fiat Family Medicine, in Indiana, where she integrates this approach into whole person care. In our interview, Dr. Smith reflects on her medical training, the journey that led her to restorative reproductive medicine, and the change of heart she experienced both personally and professionally. She studied several methods of natural family planning and is a strong advocate for women learning to chart their cycles, noting how those charts give medical professionals a clearer path to diagnosing fertility concerns. She offers practical encouragement for anyone hesitant to begin charting, discusses the role of nutrition, and explains how infertility is often a symptom, not a diagnosis, pointing toward underlying issues that can be addressed through nutrition and lifestyle support.
Training in the world of fertility, NFP, things like that, really boiled down to about a single slide in a slideshow in a lecture during the entire, third year or so, when we were going through our different rotations, maybe second year. But it was really reduced to one slide, maybe two, if I'm being generous. Wow. During the entire 4 years of medical school. So it was really something that I had to kind of seek out on my own.
Okay.
Really kind of started with my own journey, reading the catechism and reading some of the really beautiful documents that the Catholic Church has, John Paul II, Pope Paul VI. Really just kind of exploring that world and starting to ask a lot of questions. So I would say in medical school, it was really more of just asking a lot of questions and kind of figuring out what it was that I knew I didn't want to do in practice. So I knew that in my personal life and in my own practice, I knew that contraception was not something that I was interested in participating in. And trying to learn to articulate that, especially to my colleagues and attendings and things like that, being able to express why that was important to me. And then, like I said, kind of trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to know. And I think the biggest questions for me kept coming back to the whys. So there's a lot of birth control for heavy periods, birth control for painful periods, all these different things. But I kept finding myself asking, okay, but why aren't we asking the question, why are these periods for these women so terrible? Why, where else in medicine would we, somebody comes in with a complaint of knee pain, we don't just offer them morphine for their knee pain. We try to figure out why their knee is hurting
exactly
first, right?
Yeah.
So this was just really baffling to me, why that was such a gap. Okay, well, I've told people I'm not going to prescribe contraceptives.
Right.
Okay, but what else is there?
Right.
And so learning that I had, even colleagues in my own residency program, and certainly some that were already out in practice that I could, develop a relationship with and learn from.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge. That was so
Okay.
exciting for me. So really in
Right.
residency, it was when I really started to do that training.
Okay.
And a lot of that was still on my own, because
Sure.
residency training is also crazy, crazier probably than medical school. I had 3 kids during residency as well.
Oh
So
my. Yeah.
it was wild, but that was what really solidified my decision to use fertility awareness in practice. And so I got a lot of practice with that in residency, but it wasn't until my first job out of residency that I actually pursued more formal training, which again is something that I often tell patients and everybody that I talk to. I mean, there's so many options out there with
Yes.
natural family planning and fertility awareness
Absolutely.
now.
Right.
So many options to make
Yeah.
it work for where you are in your season of life.
Right.
I've had to change multiple times over the
Yes.
years for what works.
Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about maybe your motivation again and learning the different methods of fertility tracking.
So, honestly, a lot of it has come down to trying to meet my patients where they are. And so I've had various patients over the years, I mean, tracking in all sorts of ways, some valid and some not as valid maybe, or validated, I guess.
Okay.
But really trying to meet my patients where they are. So I've had patients who are charting all sorts of, it might be the symptothermal method, it might be Creighton, it might be Fem, it might be cycle beads or whatever. I've seen all kinds of different things. But yeah, I think a lot of my motivation has been being able to meet my patients where they are, understand what it is that they're seeing, be able to speak that same language with them, and have that awareness of kind of where different people are coming from and what the different options out there are. So that's the primary, and being aware, so that when I have a patient who comes to me who's interested for whatever reason in charting her cycles, I can listen to kind of what her preferences are and be able to steer her in the right direction of something that I think might fit.
So when somebody comes to you and they are using an app, does that information help you make diagnoses and treatments?
Absolutely. 100%. Yes. It's honestly, I tell women who aren't charting, who come to me with complaints like, gosh, I wish you had been taught this. And most women agree with that once they learn it.
Exactly.
I wish that you had been tracking your cycles this whole time, because I could take a look at that very visually and with probably 90+% certainty, be able to tell you what it is that's going on, and then be able to do that targeted evaluation and really figure out what all is going on. Yes. So many of the apps now, and I know the PeakDay app is very similar, have that ability to track like symptoms and things as well, which even just from a family medicine perspective, a primary care perspective, helps me so much. Women who come in with complaints of, headaches or nausea or stomach issues or anxiety or things like that. And it's having them track those symptoms alongside their cycles, and those swings of hormones and things can tell me so much about whether or not those things are related to their hormones. Sometimes they're not, but sometimes they are. And then again, like that gives us great information for how to evaluate and manage that. A couple of my biggest conversions of heart have happened with very real Marian experiences with them. The biggest one that I love to share with people is when we decided that we were okay. We were ready to accept baby number 3. This was during residency and my second year of residency. And again, got pregnant very easily, praise God. And maybe a little quicker than I really wanted though. So I was a little upset initially. I was like, Lord, like this was a little too fast. You know, but we were practicing AFP. We knew what we were doing. So we came to accept that third pregnancy kind of, you know, towards the end of the first trimester. I was exhausted. I was sick, you know, but I was starting to get excited. And I had a friend of mine around 10 weeks pregnant. I had her ultrasound me at the end of a clinic day. And I told her, I said, you know, I just want to make sure everything's okay. Haha, I just want to make sure there's only one in there. Everything's okay, right? And her jaw hits the floor and when the probe hits my belly and she turns the screen and there are two babies, which was really funny because my husband and I, he comes from a huge family. I'm an only child. We had kind of settled on like 3 was a solid number. We were good with 3. So this was our third. We were really excited. Like this was going to be it. And we were having twins, identical twin boys. And I just remember in that moment having this, I mean, there was an initial moment of a lot of emotions, but really just feeling this overwhelming sense of peace. And I remember hearing what I can only imagine was Mary's voice, telling me that, saying, Holly, you can't control it all and you don't have to. It was just kind of this invitation. I get emotional, but it was just kind of this invitation to trust in the Lord, right? Be not afraid. Gosh. And so that really, that obviously spoke volumes to me.
What do you tell those who lack trust in using natural family planning to plan their families? Like maybe those who don't think it has any scientific basis or that they can trust it.
Yeah. Well, I usually start by sharing with people where I was at the beginning of my journey and that I've been there too. And a lot of people are surprised to learn that, right? For somebody who's so passionate about it and I would say very strong in my faith, you know, to learn that I was once there too. Very doubting, very fearful, very anxious. You know, in the words of one of the greatest, like, be not afraid, right? So simple, but I think what I ask, especially of my patients and my friends, and this comes up a lot in personal conversation too, is really just to do what they can to learn it. Learn it, pray for an open heart, pray for an open mind. Pray for that grace, right? Participate in the sacraments. If you're Catholic, and you have access to those sacraments, participate in those sacraments. Those graces are huge. They're powerful. Even if you're not, right? Still pray, like God, still pray for that trust. God wants you there. And even if you're not religious, right? I mean, just study it, learn it. I think for me, that was really what sold me. I'm a very intellectual, I'm a very feeling person too, but I'm very intellectual when it comes to reasoning through things. And very much that was the conversion piece for me with NFP was understanding the nuts and bolts and being able to put that together with, oh, like this actually does make sense. This makes complete physiologic sense. There's
there is science behind it.
And there's none of this gray wishy-washy stuff that everybody leads you to think that there is. Like it just, it's very scientific. So encouraging people just to educate themselves and to pray for that trust and that grace. So I had a lot of really beautiful conversations and so many women suffering and struggling with the harms of contraception or the side effects or again, just like, you know, people, they don't want antibiotics and hormones in their beef that they buy at the store, right? Like, why would we be putting all these artificial hormomes in us for all these other reasons? The women are starting to wake up. And that was probably the most powerful place was we started seeing women who, you know, they talk. And I was getting a lot of word of mouth referrals of people who were just interested in an alternative. Like, gosh, this doctor has something to offer me that's not the birth control pill. Like, she might be able to help me figure out why my periods are so crazy.
Right.
I need to go see her.
How does nutrition and lifestyle work into solutions for fertility issues?
Yes. I see this very frequently where women, for example, may have changes in their cervical mucus quality. They may be having cycle irregularities or painful periods or things like that, where, we've done the traditional hormonal evaluation.
Okay.
And a lot of those things aren't necessarily adding up. And come to find out, we do some additional testing. Maybe there are some issues with processing blood sugar in their bodies. Maybe they are carrying a little bit more weight than they should be. Maybe they should be, and a lot of times this is the case, eating cleaner. So much of our food is processed. And even when we think we're doing a good job or a decent job, and some women just need a stricter diet or a cleaner diet than others. Well, and that's what I tell people too, when they come in, especially with the complaint of infertility or trouble conceiving, I tell couples, number one, I don't believe in a diagnosis of infertility. So we're going to take that off the table right now. Infertility is a symptom. It's a symptom of some underlying problem or problems, usually, that is contributing to that natural reproductive process not being able to happen the right way. So my goal and what I tell couples is to figure out what those problems are, get you as healthy as I can, so that you can receive the gift from God that a child is when that timing is right. That timing is not mine to decide. And again, I have a lot of Christian couples that I work with. I have some who don't necessarily have a faith background. But I find that everybody appreciates that approach, right? Just they understand that. They understand that they need to be healthy to conceive.
These three special guests brought depth and clarity and hope to the ongoing conversation around living with an understanding of fertility. Their stories set the stage beautifully for the next 3 episodes in this year-end series, where we'll highlight authors, natural family planning couples, and our own CCL teaching couples whose voices shaped the 2025 season of the PeakDay podcast. Thanks for watching.